Okay, we call this meeting to order. Would you stand for the flag salute and remain standing? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Guile.
Here.
Commissioner Price.
Here.
Commissioner Larson.
Here.
Commissioner Smith. Here. And I know Commissioner Shedwick is absent today.
All right. And we're going to have a public forum. Citizens may speak on county government, usually limited to 3 minutes. Does anybody like to come forward? All right. Norm?
Ladies first.
It's been this Norman Mantle, Pleasant Hill Road. It's been discussed several times at meetings upstairs about we got crowded law enforcement. The jail is full. There's a piece that was printed in the March 6th paper, the Saline Journal. And part of the problem is, and both the sheriff of the county and the chief of police in Salina said, the problem is that some of these law enforcement people you got, well, I've got a gun and a badge, and that's the way it's going to be. We're going to arrest somebody. These officers should be held more accountable, responsible. When they make an arrest, make it a legitimate arrest. A lot of this stuff that goes up to the county attorney shouldn't even get there. It says right in here, there used to be, we caught kids drinking, we made them drink or pour their beer out, clean up the trash and go home. But no, we've come to the police state. So we're just going to arrest somebody. Well, we're about that far from being North Korea, police state, or Syria. And if you people think it's funny, go to another country, because I've been there. So I would ask that somehow the message be given to the higher ups. Make these young cops more accountable for their actions. They can write a ticket and nothing happens to them, even if the defendant is found not guilty. No repercussions.
Norm, I sometimes forget to put on my seat belt or go through a yellow light a little bit when I should have maybe stopped a little faster, and or have a tail light that is out, or I've been stopped a lot of times, and fortunately I've got a warning ticket for every one of them. You know, I mean,
because you're a commissioner?
no, wasn't. It's just been going on for years. If they knew I was a commissioner, they might have gave me the ticket. So, but what I'm saying is, if you're polite to the officer and you work with him, it'll go a long ways. I know some people that it's my right not to have a seatbelt, and they start arguing with the guy. Well, you're gonna get a ticket. But I really think that the officers that I've run into, not because I'm a commissioner, I guarantee you that. And I think anybody here has been stopped can say the same thing. If you're, I didn't just go through a red light, you know what I mean? But well, I'm just saying, I could have a multiple amount of tickets right now from the last 10 years. I could probably have 10 tickets. I've been pretty fortunate that I don't have any tickets because they warn you, and I think they do give you. And when you talk about when we were young and maybe you got stopped and they sent you home and they called the parents. Well, now if that guy gets in his car and drives home drunk, that boy, somebody's going to be sued. So things are different now, you know. I mean, and I think there's a lot of laws that need to be passed where they don't have to arrest somebody for some reasons, you know, that they're driving without, you know, they put them in jail because they drove again without a license. But those laws are going to have to be changed, and I don't think it's the police officer's fault. Is what I'm saying.
I'm just referring back to this newspaper article.
I know.
Some of these cops you got, just
I haven't ever come across a bad one myself lately. Is anybody else up here?
No, except since you opened that up, we recently had the speed limit posted on West Waterwell Road because of the danger that's up there, and people are going at all speeds, and especially when the weather is like it's been lately and the roads are a little muddy and slick. Normally, everybody understands that out in the country, the speed limit is usually, what, 55? So we recently, last week as a matter of fact, said to, I don't know, I meant to, we could probably follow up. But I wonder if our sheriff is going to be, or any of the officers are going to be giving warnings, because these signs are new, and just to let people know they're for your safety and to slow down. Or, as you mentioned, are they going to be out there knowing that people don't know that those signs are going up, and they're going to catch everybody that's coming down the hill or up at the top of the crest of the hill, and getting pen heavy with their citations. So this would be a good practice to see if our law enforcement will be lenient, just to tell people slow down. These have recently changed, and how long they're going to be lenient on the warnings, and then after that, if they travel that road quite a bit, it's only going to take 1 or 2 days before you realize that that's been posted. If you're not in that vicinity on a daily basis, it may catch you by surprise.
And I go through North Saline, and they slow it down to 40 mile an hour up on the hill up there. And I slow down because if I stay at 55, it's going to be over a 10 mile an hour ticket, and I don't want a ticket. So I slow down, because every once in a while, I may only see him once every 3 months, but every once in a while there's a sheriff that'll sit out there. I don't want the ticket, so.
But there are officers that will tell you, I'm not going to give you 1 mile an hour leeway. If it says 40, that's it. I've run into them, Jim.
I would say on the highway of Kansas, if that was true, they would probably arrest everybody.
I'm driving
And
75 and
I
everybody's
don't
going around
believe
me.
that, because they passed me. I run 75 all the time, and I never. There's people pass me every day, all day long.
Take the bypass around Ellsworth.
Yeah. Thank you.
David Nichols, 333 West Beloit. Since Norm opened up this bag, I have a few things to say, and my comments are all going to be in favor of the law enforcement officers.
Mine too.
I have nothing but the highest respect and regard for law enforcement. I realize, I've got a lot of family and friends that have made their careers in law enforcement, and I know the trials and tribulations they go through just on a daily basis performing their duties. Now, if a person gets pulled over or stopped for some kind of criminal infraction or automobile infraction, all they have to do normally is be very polite and compliant with the directions from the officer, and not try to let the situation get escalated. Most police officers are very lenient, and they are trained, highly trained, in de-escalating situations, but they can only do so much. And
I agree with that.
I don't think the paper tells everything about every situation. I would say that if an officer arrests somebody, that person probably needs to be arrested. They don't want to just arrest someone so they can look like the police officer who's doing his job and taking somebody to jail.
Well, I think we have to have respect for that police officer.
Exactly.
I do too, and I don't think that he wants to do all that paperwork, because that paperwork really consists of a whole lot by the end of the night, if you
Now,
were going to do that.
If you're going 5 mile and over or 7 and they give you a warning, but if you're going 20 mile and over, you're going to get a ticket.
No, you need a ticket. You need a ticket.
Yeah, and you need a ticket.
And there's situations that them law officers are out there, and you pick up somebody, DUI or something like that, and let's say that they give them a break like Norman said they used to do. They used to get those breaks. I kind of remember on a Saturday morning, we were going to Natoma, Kansas, and the law officer gave him a break out there. And there was, I believe there was only 6 of them dead out of the 7 in the car that I run upon and hit a tree. And it was a very sad situation. I'm going to tell you that maybe it wasn't always good. Maybe you ought to took him home rather than to let him go on home, because those things do happen. And none of us would want our family, a family member in that car, and lose their life under a situation like that if somebody picked them up for DUI.
Right. Police officers do have a certain amount of discretion.
Absolutely.
And I think under most circumstances, they exercise that discretion appropriately.
They've been
I
lenient
agree.
with me. I'm thankful that they're lenient.
I agree with that 100%.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Next,
you.
Karen, come on up.
Karen Shade, 111 Wisconsin. Had a couple of reflections on the discussion with Waterwell Road last week. One of the things I know Commissioner Guile is familiar with is Douglas County, Colorado, which has had really phenomenal growth over multiple decades. My parents bought a piece of property where the two-lane road had just been blacktopped in '68, and there came a time for it to be made into a four-lane road. What the county did, and spoke to Mike Montoya earlier, this county does it as well. I guess Road and Bridge goes out and obtains easements and right-of-ways and things like that when properties sell, so that should, like the Waterwell Road, the discussion is about paving it and having adequate shoulders and all of that, the county has the foresight to be looking at acquiring and being able to make those expansions in an appropriate way. In my mother's situation, the county had appropriated $128,000 to buy up the property. They would condemn it to be able to make the improvements. And of that, she got $62,000 for a half acre of land. So she did well.
Yeah.
And I find it very surprising that here people are asked to donate the land. Up until it would be condemned, they're paying taxes on it, and then all of a sudden they're supposed to turn around and donate it. And that doesn't make sense to me. My mother, of course, took this very bitterly. She loved that half acre of land more than she loved her firstborn child, and that child was me, and I didn't understand. But I saw a lot of less than rational behavior or thoughts as I saw with my mother. And going back to Commissioner Giles' comment of, it's going to, there may be problems on Waterwell Road with a potential accident. Whether you pave it, whether you don't pave it, are there adequate shoulders, all of that. That responsibility falls squarely on you all. And that's all I really need to say. But I think there are options here that I just didn't hear mentioned. You need to look at public safety in terms of the volume of traffic that's there. You need to look at the condition of the roads. And if need be, you might need to pay people for some land you're going to take. They won't like it one bit, but they would not like it at all if one of their loved ones had problems because the roads weren't in good shape. I also just wanted to briefly comment about Gary Nash's departure. One of the things that I've not heard mentioned as a concern, when the roads, we had so much rain and that there was limited gravel, a lot of the commissioners directed him to go out and buy more gravel. The only thing I didn't see you do was do a change in his budget formally so that he knew where his spending was at. I know from experience, Rita Deister has said people stay within their budgets, and here he was told to go out and spend. And I think that's confusing, and I think there were some other issues on an administrative level that could have been handled better that might not have contributed to the decisions you've made. But that is confidential, so that's just speculation on my part. But I would just ask that when people are told that they can exceed their budget, that something goes in writing. And the one thing I just heard today that just really surprised me, with Waterwell Road, if you turned around and made a change to change the speed limit, I don't recall hearing a vote taken. And maybe I need to reread the minutes. But can you answer, has the speed limit on Waterwell Road changed?
We've not put up signs.
No, I didn't
Have you
know
been
that.
told what that's going to be?
It was just
Okay.
I think it was the public that was actually making the request.
The public was making a
I don't think
request.
that I never heard that it had even been voted on.
Well, we
So,
asked what we
so
could
a
do
request for action is still needed on that
But
matter?
We'll make a direction someday.
Okay.
It was not
Soon.
made that day.
I wasn't certain where that stood. I've
sure
heard
it
multiple
wasn't.
things.
And also,
I don't remember it being,
also, Karen, the people own the road out there, to the middle of the road. We don't take their we don't buy their property because it's theirs to start with. The middle of the road is theirs in the county. Everywhere in the county, we do not own the road. We have the right-of-ways. So we're not talking about purchasing land, we're talking about right-of-ways. And the same, I read something in the paper about this tractor that we're buying, we're leasing. Our road graders, we don't lease them. We purchase them, we own them with buyback plans. Leasing and buyback is not the same thing. So you got to understand and have your facts straight to know
Well,
what's
and that's
going
why
on.
I went and talked to
Yeah.
Mike Montoya, because there were some things, I had lost track on where the county was at with its annexation and issues with the city over who all needed to be notified. And I just didn't know if maybe that was discussed in an executive session and no report out, or if that was
No,
still,
it's in
he
court.
told
It's
us
in
that
court.
it's still
It's in
stalled.
court, so we
Yeah.
can't do anything. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
Mhm.
you.
Any other? All right then, we're gonna move along to item 1. Oh, we got one more, Ray?
Yeah.
I'm about run you off, didn't
Well, you tried anyway.
I just not fast
God, I
enough.
wish you could have been a little
Yes.
faster.
Yeah.
No.
Am I going fast enough
Go
now?
ahead, go ahead. What's your
Ray
name?
Ruska, 235 North Santa Fe. Well, today during the moment of silence, I prayed for Commissioner John Price
Uh-oh.
because I thought he was needing something that he could be helped with. Then he started off into this warnings about tickets and all the things that are connected to that, and we had some reinforcement from the audience and stuff. And so that brought up an issue for me because recently I'd been given a questionable ticket about running a red light. Well, here it is. The place it happened was in the city. It was written by a state patrolman, which works for the state, and the county court is the one in this building that handles the ticket. Now, you can go to that court and explain everything that in less detail, and there is a situation where he could have used discretion. The judge did not. I explained it, took a lot of time to put that together, and I find out after the fact that the only way I can appeal his decision is through the appellate court of 3 judges. Now, who in his right mind is going to, appeal a ticket for $100? I mean, it's a kangaroo court. It's all it is. I mean, they're just making decisions based on whatever they want to do. Even though I got a favorable resolution out of this, it was still wrong. Now, I'm not wanting to make an enemy out of the court judge, but he had a chance to figure out the whole situation, and I just was disappointed that he didn't take the right way to do it. And I believe that what John Price was saying, Commissioner Price, was there are times for warnings, and you said you received 10 of them.
Well,
I
I'm
didn't
saying
even
10
get.
years maybe, or 20, I don't know.
I didn't even get one. So all of a sudden I'm the guy they're making an example out of because I didn't do what they said I was supposed to do, as far as running this red light.
If you get off of work at 1:30 in the morning and you've got a light out or something's wrong, it's DUI time, and they're
Yeah.
going to stop you to see if you're drunk. And so that's why I got stopped a lot over, and my taillights are working. And as soon as they saw you weren't drinking, they let you go, But there are times that you do get stopped more often because of the time of day. And that was kind of the situation when I was getting stopped a lot. So it wasn't just because I was doing things wrong.
You were lucky, let's put it that way.
Well, I was
we-
considerate, and
aren't we
I was
all?
I was very polite. And a lot of
Well,
times, when they'd stop me, I'd roll down the window and say, "I'm not drinking," and they'd jump in their car and head out for somebody else.
Well,
You know,
I was
they
polite
were
to
out
this
for,
officer
they were looking,
too.
they were looking for
There was no
drinkers.
issue
and,
there.
Yeah.
I was trying to,
I didn't even get a warning ticket. They just jumped in their car and took off. But there's certain times and certain places.
In fact, I even asked this officer for a warning ticket because it was kind of
Yeah.
touch and go as far as, he had discretion to do that, like you mentioned earlier today.
Yeah, but the difference was is you asked for it, Ray,
How
and you
did I
shouldn't
ask for
have.
it?
If you went, well, you asked for a warning. You said you did.
Well, yeah, that's right.
And if you wouldn't have asked for a warning, then it would have been
No,
up to him.
that's not true. I asked him initially, is he going to give me a ticket? And he said yes.
Okay, but you did say
Then
that.
I asked for a warning. I said, I thought it was
That's what I
appropriate
heard,
for under
too.
these conditions. That ain't going to work, Jimmy.
I know it, but
Okay.
it won't work.
Well,
Reverse psychology won't work that way.
I pulled
by
up the
asking.
yellow lights, and I go ahead and stop easily, and the guy behind me, right on through. And then I made that decision, can I stop? And I went through, and the highway patrolman was right next to me, and he pulled me over and stopped me, and I said, I probably could have stopped. I made the decision knowing you were beside me, and he gave me a warning. So it can work both ways, He could have gave me a ticket, but he was right beside me when I did it, so I really thought I was okay. And evidently he thought I should have stopped. And maybe I should have, but I had to go to a graduation, so I was kind of in a hurry.
Well, don't get me wrong. Our law enforcement needs to be commended on the things they do for the public. And I agree that there's sometimes there should be warnings and sometimes there should be tickets. I haven't had a ticket so long I couldn't even remember what it was like. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other comments? If not, we're going to move on to item 1.
It's approval of the agenda for the public forum as presented for today's agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. All right, item number 2.
Approval of county commission minutes for May 24, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the county commission minutes for May 24th, 2016 as presented.
Jim makes the motion.
Second.
Dave seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Item number 3.
This is a request for action 156-16. It's a bid award for a wheel loader for Road and Bridge. I have Darren Fischel here from the Road and Bridge. He's a road superintendent to give you an update on 156-16.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
A request for action for the possible award of contract for the purchase of a 2016 high-lift wheeled bucket loader on a buyback program. Sealed bids were open 16th of May 2016 at 4 p.m. at the City County Building. Just a little information for the buyback program. It is a program where Saline County does purchase the equipment, and after a set amount of years or hours for this particular loader, it would be 7 years or 7,500 hours. The dealer would agree to purchase back that piece of equipment for a set price, which will give you the net cost. We received 5 bids. One from Sellers of Saline. They bid a Doosan loader with a purchase price of $2,002, $494, a buyback price of $62,000, leaving a net cost of $140,494. Van Keppel of Topeka bid a Volvo loader with a purchase price of $201,640 with a buyback price of $93,000. Leaves a net cost of $108,064. Victor L. Phillips of Topeka bid a case loader with a purchase price of $179,573 with a buyback of $60,000 with a net cost of $119,573. Murphy Tractor of Topeka bid a John Deere loader with a purchase price of $186,000, a buyback price of $75,000, leaving a net cost of $111,000. Foley Equipment, which is Caterpillar of Salina, bid a Caterpillar loader, purchase price of $172,300, a buyback amount of $88,500, leaving a net cost of $83,800. We would suggest, staff recommends to approve the load tow cost to bid and award the bid to Foley Equipment, Salina, Kansas, for one new 2016 Cat 930 MHL wheeled loader with a guaranteed repurchase in 2023 for $88,500. This money will come out of our 2016 budget line item capital outlay with a current balance of $176,058.28, which would leave a balance of $3,758.
All right.
The buyback agreement, is that at our option, or do they buy it back whether we want to sell it or not?
Typically, there will be a clause in the buyback agreement where you have so many days to notify them that you are not going to enter the buyback portion of the contract.
So it'd be
If
our,
you decide to keep it, you can.
we can keep it.
Yes.
Yep.
And we probably will.
We own it. I mean,
Yeah,
when you
it's-
purchase it.
And that's what we did on the one that it's replacing, is that not right? Are
No,
we-
that one, that loader was purchased by Saline County.
Okay, that's what I mean. Oh, okay, and is it gonna go to the expo? Is that what we was talking about?
That was my understanding.
That's what I thought. Okay,
And I think we'll probably include that
Yeah.
in this.
yeah.
And plus, the one at the expo will be sold on Purple Wave probably.
Mhm.
And will that money, Rita, go to the expo, or will it go back to the county since we're doing it?
It generally goes back to wherever the equipment was purchased from to that fund. So it'd probably go back to the expo or the weed department, depending on where it was purchased from.
Or they could trade it. They could trade the one, and then they could do with what they fit with it. It'd be pretty fair, really, to let the highway department have the trade.
It's your choice. If you make the motion that the money goes back to the road and bridge, we can do it that way. It's
Well,
just,
I didn't, that's
know,
what I was wondering.
We had voted,
also.
we had this brought up prior, and the sellers had gotten the bid as the lowest price, but when we came back to the buyback program, there's a $57,500 reduction in the value of that. And I think any of the loader guys out there would agree that CAT is one of their main it'd be a good choice.
It's a quality
Yeah,
piece of
very
equipment,
quality,
yeah.
yeah. And,
Not that
So-
the others aren't.
no,
I mean, it's-
no, but it is a very, I mean, CAT, they're here in Salina, they have parts, I think this was a good choice that we went this direction, and especially saving the $57,500, and I think when we,
Well, actually, you're not saving money, you're spending more money up front. You're paying about 4,000, or what is the difference between seller's first bid and the 172?
That's about $11,000. Seller's first bid was $161,585.
So we're paying $11,000 for that buyback contract,
well,
which we may not actually use.
but you'll still, there's a value there of $57,000, no matter how you look at it. It's
Not the way
worth
I look
money.
at it.
Well, you look at things differently then, because I look at it what it's worth after we buy it. You go buy a new car, it's immediately gonna be worth less money, and some new cars might be worth less money, but I look at it what it's gonna be worth in 5 years from now, and that's what this figure.
This is a 7-year
figure states,
program,
but,
though.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Is that not right? Is this
Yeah,
a 7-year program
So it,
and still worth 83,000?
and it could be that we're not putting a lot of hours. The tractor could last us 15 years, the new tractor. So there's a good chance we won't sell it. On the other hand, if we come back to this buyback and it averages $11,000 a year is about what this tractor's costing us, you can't not rent that tractor for a week for $1,000, probably. You know what I'm saying? It's if you figure the hours we're putting on, it's just like our maintainers. I think I figured it cost us about $10 an hour to run those maintainers for the purchase cost, which is cheap. I mean, so plus the new stuff, the maintenance isn't there, and I think, when we put out a bid, we have the right to look at those options, and I think we did a wise step in what we did here still. So anyway, is there any comment from anybody else here, and from the public? Anybody have a comment on this? All right. I guess I'd like to have a motion for item number 3.
Mr. Chair, I move that we award RFA 156-16 the bid for the 2016 bucket loader from Foley Equipment with a guaranteed repurchase in 2023 of $88,500, with the current wheeled bucket loader to be donated to the Livestock and Expo Department.
What would you like to do with that? Would you like to have it go back to the
And I would say have the funds go back to Road and Bridge.
Yeah, I would too.
Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Jim seconds the motion, and might make a note that it will go
Back to the original buyer, which was.
and then there.
You're talking about the proceeds,
the-
right?
No.
Yes, the proceeds, the
Proceeds go
buyback.
back to the Road and
Well,
Bridge.
yeah, it'll be theirs to sell. Actually, they're trading the equipment,
Right.
and then the Road and Bridge will sell it on.
And they're
on
giving them,
Broadway.
they're giving them a better value.
Oh, yeah, by far.
By far.
And that does, okay.
All in
Second.
favor?
And all
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, and the motion is 3-4.
3-1.
3-1, I'm sorry, 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. I'm new at this. Okay. Item number 4.
We have a Next Tech phone contract for the county, and that's request for action 158-16. Have a staff report by Mr. Brad Bowers, Computer Technology Director.
Good morning. We have
Morning.
before you a request for action for acceptance of a phone services contract with Nextech. The attached contract defines the cloud-based PBX system offered by Nextech to Saline County. The monthly cost of the telephone services under this contract will be $2,118.64. That is less money than what we talked about in your work session last week. As you may recall, you asked me to go back and do some research on modems, and this new pricing reflects getting rid of 2 modems, or not, I shouldn't say modems, but fax lines. 2 fax lines in this contract that we think we can do away with now, with the possibility of a 3rd. The rest of the faxes that we looked at were required for various reasons. Primarily up in the district court, for example, the county attorney has one. The only way, as I was told, the only way the KBI will accept a subpoena from the county attorney is via fax. Most of the interfacing that they have to do with the DMV folks is done through fax, and that is a requirement from DMV. You know, if you're getting something expunged from your driving record or whatever, we saw that rippled down through the tag office as well. So DMV is a entity that requires faxing. In the court clerk's office, prior to beginning the e-filing strategy that they're doing now, local attorneys can e-file cases over the internet. That used to only be done through a fax machine. Any attorney that's practicing that isn't part of Saline County or the city of Salina is required by law to file those briefs by fax. They could not do it over email. So for that reason, the court clerk's office had two fax lines in there to accommodate all of the filings. They can reduce that down to 1 now because of e-filing. So with the hope that in the future that they'll be able to get rid of the other one. Down on the second floor, the tag office has a fax machine, and their interfacing with DMV is a requirement for that. We also have one in the treasurer's office. There is whenever we make an electronic funds transfer, part of the security part of that transfer is done through fax, so that one is going to be required. Sensitive medical information comes over the one in the ARC office when we do a test of some kind of one of our employees. That information comes back to them through fax, doctors, etc. So that one's going to be required. we think we can get rid of the one in the Register of Deeds office. They are using faxes much less, transitioning over to email. So we think we can get rid of that one. The other one that we have on the second floor is in the clerk's office, and that is primarily used, I think, for election type of things. So we would keep that one. The third one that's in question is down in the extension office. They have one down there, and there's a possibility that, you know, when that all resolves in the fall, we could possibly get rid of that one as well. Not for sure on that one, so I left it in for now. $2,118.64 is the new price with two less fax machine. The contract term of this agreement is for 60 months. Execution of the contract is dependent upon the wiring phase of the project. The wiring phase of this project will not commence until Saline County and the City of Salina have contracts in place for telephone services with Nextech. Splitting out the telephone services into separate contracts with Nextech, I believe, will allow the county to make more independent decisions about their communication strategies and going forward. The decisions about the phone system can now be made by the county commission without consultation from the building authority. County council has approved the language in this contract. Staff recommends that the county commission sign the contract with Nextech for the cloud-based telephone services. This request is the culmination of a search for a new phone system in the city-county building. The current phone system is a pre-2000 version of a PBX that was offered at that time. It's been a very good phone system for us. The computer hardware, system cards, operating system that runs the system is long obsolete, making recovery of this particular system very difficult, if not impossible to do. So the staff recommends that we move forward with this new phone system. Having the phone system in the cloud gives us a leg up on a lesson learned from the health department issue. Phone communication was a very difficult and expensive thing to get back going once they had to leave and moving back in. Had they had a phone system like this during the health department issue, the telephone extensions, it would have been much better to continue the telephone communications with a cloud-based system. And so that's staff's recommendation is to move forward with this contract.
What's our yearly contract on that, cost-wise? What would we have to put into our budget? Do we have an expansion of what our budget was last year and coming into 17?
I think I can answer that for you. What we were recommending is that you had $55,000 put in CIP, right, anticipating that we were going to buy the phones, and we would go ahead and pay the expenses for the 2016 telephone service out of that CIP, and then we would consolidate. Right now, in each department's budget is a phone allowance, and if we pull that out and put it in the general courthouse fund, it will be used to fund it in the future.
Of the fund.
Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be, it'd be very little additional money required.
It would be additional, though.
Not very much. Last week before we reduced it, it was like 4,000 additional needed. And since he reduced it, I'd have to figure that out.
Well, reduced it by about $50, so.
Yeah, so it'd still be about 4,000 additional.
Yeah.
That we'd need to put in general courthouse above what we were already allocating to the individuals to pay their phone bills. And it certainly would simplify payment of the phone bills by having one consolidated bill instead of breaking it out by departments.
And then it's going to be the contention of the city first before we can move on this?
No.
Okay.
We can move on this today, but the wiring portion of the contract that's going to be funded by the building authority will not begin until both entities have a contract with with Next Tech for phone services.
Okay.
And I'm sure they're
Um,
ready to do it also. They have to do
They
it
are.
also. I mean, it's
It's
not a
Okay.
problem.
It's just their schedule.
Well,
They have to adhere to
that's
the
my
schedule.
question. I just wanted to know that they'd work along with this.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
And they were having problem with these phones, Jim. We came on
I know.
back in 2012 when we started 2013. One of our first meetings were about replacing the phone system. We decided then, let's try to keep using our current system and find out what new is coming up. And that was a good move because this is a lot better system than we could have got 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about this for, on the
Right.
order of about a year and a half.
Well,
And,
but I'm
I'm-
saying, well, we were talking about new phones though 3 years ago. Yeah.
Very,
And
so-
it's $250,000 too.
Yeah, so it was really, it was good time to wait, and it was a good
Yeah.
move by the
Yeah, it
by the
is.
building authority, so.
pretty hair-raising.
Yeah, it was.
But I think that, I'll say again, the lesson learned at the health department makes
Right.
this,
Yep.
makes this something that we can really utilize during an emergency situation if needed. There is a lot of functionality with respect to that. And, nobody's ever really gone back and dug up the cost about what it took to move it and what it took to move it back, but there was definitely cost there.
It was a lot of money. It really was.
But
All right.
there will be some cost addition because we gotta pay for the wiring
Well, that,
for 5 years.
True.
any other questions? How about anybody from the public have a comment?
Ray Ruska, 235 North Santa Fe. There were some discussions about some items and details about how this system is going to work. And moving this telephone system to a cloud-based system, one question that Brad could probably answer readily is it about security? I mean, are we going to have any issues about security that could possibly cause a problem for us in the future?
Not that I'm aware of. I know another county government in the state of Kansas has this same system. I guess you'd have to define security. I mean, that's a pretty broad term.
Brad, excuse me, can you come to the podium so that they can get your explanation on TV?
Not that I know of. I guess we'd have to really kind of define what security is in this sense. It's switching a telephone call. I'm not so sure that we don't have the same risks today that we would have in this system. So I guess we'd have to really kind of define what you mean by problems with security.
Okay, if you want to define security, do you know anything about Administrative Order 44 about security on the 3rd floor?
I would have to say no. I don't know it verbatim, but I'm aware of
They
it.
use ambiguous language in that order that Jerry Helmer signed, to provide security on the 4th or the 3rd floor that does not define anything except like for the sheriff, just let's provide some security. That's all it says. So that's actually a definition of security, and the security they determined was it was about let's start frisking everybody that comes on the 3rd floor and then risk their access to district court, which is basically the people's house. And I particularly don't like that issue because the purpose is not actually serving the needs of the people. And then there was another question, that was kind of a general question or comment there, Brad, thank you. And since now that e-filings are becoming available, and are those e-filings going to be connected in through the phone system some way?
No, they won't. Not as the court defines e-files. What does need to come through the phone system would be filings of cases that attorneys outside of the e-filing requirement would make. That is the only way they can do it is through a fax. So
Well, this e-filing thing's been going on for a while, and trying to get it standardized, for the state.
Yep.
And my concern is that if this is connected up to the phone system anyway, the e-filing should be available to the people to be able to get that information. Like another attorney could come in and say, send me that file. Well, we can't do that now because we got security on the 3rd floor. The people can't do that unless we go through these, as I mentioned before. And then one final question is, you made a reference here to an issue about the lesson learned from the health department. Could you refresh my memory on that, or what was the lesson learned?
It was very difficult to reestablish telephone communication when the health department had to move out. The details of what had to happen was AT&T had to get involved and get a new circuit put in. We didn't know exactly where they were going to go at the time. Wiring had to be done at both facilities that they moved to, requiring expense. And when they moved back, then all of that had to be brought back under the same roof. So that's what I meant by lesson learned.
Okay, thank you for that comment, and I understand that now because I remember some of the details relating to that, and it was a mess, but it was achievable to fix it. I mean, it was an insurmountable problem. There were ways to take care of it, and so I'm just questioning whether or not the ways to take care of this new phone system are adequate and providing the correct amount of security.
I would say that the on-site electronics that will be located here in the city-county building, because there will be a piece of electronic software, and in every instance, city, county, and district court, that devices will be behind a locked door. So physical security, I'm okay with. The security that goes on with the system where the actual telephone switch is set, there's physical security into that location, just like there is into the central telephone office down here. It's controlled access into and out of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fairly comfortable with the security measures from that point of view.
We've got a lot of trust in, and I do too, with Brad, and he does a good job. The reason I'm bringing this up is so that the people will know a little bit more about what's going on. It may be helpful to, the understanding level would increase a little. And thank you very much, Brad.
All right, any other questions? Okay, I'd like to hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the phone service contract with Nextel for the county department located in the city-county building for the terms of 60 months, 60 at a monthly cost of $2,165.24 as recommended by staff.
Jim made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, but that figure's 2118.
Oh, that's right, but it's
60.
on here.
Yep.
That's exactly right, because I have it written down here.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That carries 4-0. And
Thank
is there
you.
any other business? Any other business announcements?
I'd like to read a short statement from Thomas Jefferson. The God who gave us life gave us liberty. Can the liberties of a nation be thought secure when we have removed their only firm basis, a conviction that these liberties are the gift of God?
All right, thank you, Dave. We're gonna be having a meeting number 3 upstairs, and so that will start in about 5 minutes probably. So those that want to go upstairs, we'll be meeting again. And do I hear an adjournment? Any other announcements out there? Any other announcements?
I move that we adjourn.
I second that.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.